So, is he there? Okay, let's go. Excuse me, Mr. Phillips, my name's David Harper. What sort of work do you do, please?
I don't do any work. I'm a tramp.
Mr. Phillips, no, you're not in fact a tramp. You in fact work for an organisation called the IFI. You in fact spy on people, don't you?
No, I just doss around all day. Now leave me alone or I'll call the...
Mr. Phillips, do you not think you owe it to all the people you've had blacklisted to explain why it is you've had that done to them?
I haven't had anybody blacklisted. I can't even spell my own name, all right?
What is your name, Mr. Phillips, please?
I can't remember offhand. I think it's Fred something.
No, it's Phillips, your job is to get people's names from an employment blacklist. Now, it's a pretty nasty way to earn a living, isn't it?
My name is Fred, and I'm a tramp, and I'm on my way to get some soup. Now leave me alone or I'll call the police.
You don't want soup up some of this is it. This is present soup.
No, thanks. I'm trying to cut down. That's very kind
of
you.
No, you say you're a tramp, Mr. Phillips, but I've never seen a tramp refuse a drink before.
Oh, well, normally I don't, of course, but had a bit of a heavy session last night. I bumped into a few tramps for quite some time, and things got a bit out of hand.
What are you bastards want to fight? You haven't even asked me for any money, Mr. Phillips.
I'm in a hurry. Why? Do you want to give me some?
Well, 10 pence, that's what tramps normally ask.
All right, can I have 10 pence, please?
We know about your involvement in the M43 protest. Now, some people say you are unbalanced.
Well, I'm not. Now, excuse me.
Give it a quid, here. This is your car. A tramp with a car. That's rather unusual, isn't it,
Mr.
Phillips?
No, it's not my car. It belongs to a school friend. We've kept in touch.
Thank
you very much, and I have nothing to say.
Mr. Phillips, I'm being Mr. Phillips, what about Leaf Life? We know about the M43. How many of the M43 protesters? What about Leaf Life, Mr. Phillips?
Right, and now, Leaf Life, listen.
Would you get...
These are the offices of a Midlands-based environmentalist organisation called Leaf Life. For the past 6 months, the people who work here have been on the receiving end of some decidedly unwelcome attentions. Leaf Life believe that their offices are bugged and that this van, which is often parked near their building, is the listening post. A simple test we devised would seem to confirm Leaf Life's suspicions.
Good Lord, look at that young lad stealing the wheels from that grey van down there.
Leaf Life staff are not only being watched and eavesdropped upon, they're also getting some very nasty things through the post.
We've all had them. Threatening letters. Personally addressed. Written in blood. It's very upsetting. Most of us are vegetarians.
Who is behind all this? Who is this man working for? The answer we've discovered is an organization which calls itself the IFI, the Institute for Freedom in Industry. The IFI describes itself as a pressure group which acts on behalf of its subscribing member companies. But it's the kind of pressure it exerts that worries its opponents.
3 years ago, I answered an ad in the paper for a job with the IFI. They said they were looking for an environmental liaison officer, someone interested in focusing on the arguments put forward by environmentalist groups and challenging some of their basic assumptions. It was only at the interview that they explained most of the focusing would involve telephoto lenses, and that the environmentalists' basic assumption I was to challenge was that they wouldn't get bricks thrown through the windows.
So you were being asked, in effect, to spy on and harass perfectly legitimate environmentalist organizations?
That's it. I was utterly disgusted.
Why then did you agree to take the job?
Because I'd written my address on the application form, and I'd just had new windows put in.
Parker's Meadow, southeast Warwickshire, an ancient grassland site of special scientific interest. Or, if a powerful consortium of road builders has its way, Junction 6 of the M43. Not surprisingly, the plan has met with a certain amount of opposition.
It's deplorable. There's been no consultation with local people, no serious attempt to evaluate the impact on the environment, not even the slightest degree of concern about what is in fact a unique natural site. All we've had is some vague promise that they'll consider putting a bush on the access roundabout. Well, that's not enough, quite frankly.
No. Why are you dressed as a snail?
Parker's Meadow is home to many rare fauna and flora. One species, the Shifton snail, has been found nowhere else in the country. Now, what the M43 represents, and let's be clear about this, is mollusk genocide.
I see. So by dressing up in this way, you're hoping to make people aware of the animal's plight?
By dressing up in this way, I'm hoping to make people aware of the seriousness of the situation, yes.
Anti-road protesters like Brian Stevenson are up against a consortium of powerful business interests, which are being represented by the IFI. From the start, the campaign it has fought to get the M43 road scheme adopted has been both vigorous and aggressive. Elements of it are also decidedly underhand. Especially this element. Frank Phillips is an IFI special investigator. For nearly 20 years, Frank Phillips has been infiltrating groups identified by the IFI to be subversive and reporting back on every aspect of those groups' activities to his IFI area director. The names of the people Phillips reports back on invariably end up on a document the IFI circulates to its client companies. We've obtained a copy of that document. It's an employment blacklist. People whose names appear on it tend to find it remarkably difficult to get work. One of those people is Brian Stevenson, who on the blacklist is described as a subversive.
I'm not a subversive, I'm just a concerned snail lover. Do I look like a subversive to you?
No. As far as you're aware, has being on this list affected your employment prospects at all?
It most certainly has, yes. In the past 6 months I've been for dozens of jobs. They've all turned me down, even when I was wearing a suit.
Brian Stevenson is not the only surprising person to appear on the list. Others are on it simply because the IFI regards them to be Oxfam sympathizers, bottle recyclers, or potential social workers. Probably the only thing any of these people have done wrong is, like Brian Stevenson, to have at one time or another placed their trust in Frank Phillips.
Well, I'm shocked. I thought we were good friends. I confided in the man totally. I suppose this means I'll be getting my snail poems back.
For years, the lives of hundreds, perhaps thousands of people have been ruined by this one man. What kind of a man could do that? The answer in Frank Phillips' case is clearly not a very balanced one. Years of intrigue and masquerade have left him with a very slim grip indeed on reality, as an article he sent into a magazine called They're Here illustrates. In the article, entitled The 9 Years I'll Never Forget, Frank Phillips claims to have had a ride in a spacecraft manned by aliens from the next galaxy but one. His journey, he says, lasted 9 years, but because the aliens were adept time travelers, he in fact arrived home only 20 minutes after he'd gone. Frank Phillips is perhaps not the best person to be assessing the reliability of others. Recently, he's been assessing the reliability of these men, a branch of the M43 protest movement who call themselves clergymen for the countryside. Frank Phillips has joined their ranks, posing as a sympathetic vicar from Bolton.